I got my cow picture back. It was being repaired by Sister Palmer. A couple of you noticed that it wasn't in the last video. Okay, I have some cool news I have to share with you, and I'm so unprepared about the Holy Land and presenting it the way I want to. So just be patient with me. But here's some cool news. Okay, I gave a little hint a while back about maybe some exciting news about The Chosen and those that subscribe, not necessarily to this channel, although that's awesome, but John Hewlett with Cardio Miracle, the brains behind Cardio Miracle, and a dear friend of mine, and you know the story, how we reconnected with my surgery happening. He heard it on my YouTube channel. He reached out, and I've been a huge fan of Cardio Miracle ever since. And it's really made a huge difference in both Sue and I's lives. Well, John and his sweet wife have made arrangements to invite those subscribers that have subscribed to Cardio Miracle through the COWS organization of a viewing of in a big theater of the first 2 episodes of The Chosen of season 3. Now, here are the details. Okay, here are the details, and I'll write them out in the comments as well. So this is going to be on November 19th. That's a Saturday evening at 6 p.m. So Saturday, November 19th at Jordan Commons. It's about 9400 South State Street, Jordan Commons, in I think that's Sandy, but it's in the Salt Lake Valley. So we recognize that there are a lot of cows all over, and they're not going to be able to come. Basically, what John's done is he's bought the theater for us as a gift to those people who have felt the blessing of Cardio Miracle in their life and have subscribed. And we also want to open it up to certain, to cows as well. But we just don't know how many tickets will be available. So here's what's going to happen. I thought John was pretty smart. He said we're basically going to take the people that would travel to a BYU game, that radius. So southern Idaho, parts of Wyoming, all of Utah, from Logan to St. George and every points in between, would typically travel. So this is a big deal. We will also have, I think his name is Brad Pello. He is I think it's the executive producer of The Chosen. He's going to be there with his wife to talk about The Chosen. I'll have an opportunity to say a few words, and then of course we want to hear from John Hewlett. Cardio Miracle, the story of it, the miracles. You can read in the comments on this, unsolicited comments on this channel of people who have been blessed, by Cardio Miracle. So what will happen is, if you are a subscriber to Cardio Miracle, you will receive an email if you're in that geographic area, and it'll be basically an RSVP if you can make it or not. Again, it's November 19th, 6 p.m. at Jordan Commons, and it'll be for the first two episodes. So, in fairness, the episodes, I think, will start the night before, that you could access them on the app. But this is in a big theater, and it's where we can gather us fellow cows, as well as those that have been blessed by Cardio Miracle. and the nitric oxide that takes all that good vitamin and good vibes all through your body and gets you going. It is so cold here. I think it was 12 degrees. And, you know, I know we've been in Israel and it was really pleasant. I mean, it was really nice. And my body is just having a hard time adjusting to the cold temperatures. We went on a 5-mile hike this morning with the dogs in the snow, and it was just invigorating, right? But I'm chilled, as you can probably tell. Anyway, November 19th, Jordan Commons, about 9400 South State Street in Salt Lake City, 6 p.m. And if you subscribe to Cardio Miracle, you will get an email if you're in that geographic area. And then it'd be so nice if you could answer that. And so we can kind of see how many are going to be coming. And then we could open it up to other cows to come. It will really be a fun night. So that's that. Okay. And really, this is just kindness from John and his wife to do this for us. And I know we've been working on it, trying to get some dates, trying to work with the Megaplex theaters down there to do this. So it's pretty cool. All right. Yeah, here's another little thing. Yesterday, I was invited to appear on a YouTube channel by way of commandment. And I'll put the link to that too in the comment section. I'll pin it, so it'll be the first comment along with this one. Jacob Ryder. Jacob Ryder he's the host of a YouTube channel called By Way of Commandment. I really want to give him a shout out. He had some insights on where 2 or 3 are gathered, I will be in their presence. It wasn't just that, but that to me was he titled it that after, which I thought was so cool. And it was his insight. He's really good. And I highly recommend his channel. Now, when I recommend a channel, come on, guys, you know that doesn't mean that it's like I blanket agree with everything. That would be ridiculous. Just like I know Jacob Ryder wouldn't agree with everything. That's not the point of these things, is whether we agree or not. We have felt compelled, many of us, to express our testimony of Jesus and his restored gospel. And we all have different ways of doing it. But I really like this guy, and I highly recommend. You can do with it what you want. But By Way of Commandment is his YouTube channel. I think he's also on Rumble. Okay. Now, having said that, I have to talk about, you spend over 2 weeks in the Holy Land, and the Spirit every day was just amazing, and studying and highlighting. And, I told you I took this set of new scriptures with me and tabbed. I got most of it done. Some I have in my little journal book, that I took, that I didn't get a chance to transfer over, because sometimes it was kind of tricky, to have all this stuff. You're outside, you got your backpack, and we packed these little portable camping chairs that I brought it up a few times. I won't go backpacking without it. Hellenics, I think they are. Very lightweight, very compact. And it was really interesting because Todd Fink, our tour guide, who is the author of many books, but this book here is amazing. It's thick, and and he has a YouTube channel. I put the link on the last video of his YouTube channel. But he recommended that we have these little chairs. And I'm telling you, they were a lifesaver, because we were out in the middle of nowhere being taught, you know, you're underneath a tree, you're out in a field, you're, you know, wherever, and standing, and, you know, if you can find a rock to sit on, that's awesome, but that's not always possible. So we had these little chairs we took, and most people had those on our trip, and they're such a blessing. So that gets into, before I get into the scriptures and everything, I just feel like I need to talk about some other things. So we felt the Spirit for 2 weeks. So you get back home, and, you know, we Latter-day Saints are an odd bunch. You know, we like to label ourselves as a peculiar people. If you look at that verse, peculiar means purchased. So, purchased by the blood of the Lamb is really what that means. So it doesn't mean that you're strange or weird, although we like that title sometimes. But the frustration sometimes. Okay, so I've had several, both on the channel as well as emails and other things, about a talk that Sherry Dew gave in Hawaii, I believe. I read the talk. Actually, I listened to it. So I got to clarify that. I listened to it. Personally, I just was like, okay, that's great. But I see now, so getting back to my other thought of, you know, you're there in the Holy Land for over 2 weeks, immersed in all this just goodness of Old Testament stories. Sorry about the dogs, not mine, neighbors. Immersed about the life of Christ, following in his footsteps, thinking he stood here, you know, kind of thing, to this stuff you come home to. And I don't know what it is about us saints, but dang, it's getting frustrating for me. But anyway, I'm going to address it a little bit here. The Sherry Dew talk of the prophet sees around all the corners that we can't see, and it always. It lately it just seems to go back to the jab, right, in the statement, and that's where it always goes, especially directed towards people like me, who probably the only LDS YouTuber that addresses that issue that I know of. Everyone else is, you know, on board with getting it, and you know, more power to them. That's their business. Gosh, can you get your dogs to calm down? Anyway, here's where I'm going to look at it. First off, if you've watched this channel at all, you know how I feel about Deseret Book and how it's, in my opinion, digressed. And so you might know of how I feel about Sherry Dew. I don't answer to Sherry Dew. I don't sustain Sherry Dew. I don't really think much of Sherry Dew other than a fellow saint, like I would think of anybody else. I don't think derogatory as far as her worthiness, and I think she's, you know, I have no reason to believe that she isn't totally worthy to hold a recommend and do everything. I totally disagree with the direction of Deseret Book under her leadership and guidance, but that's just me. And who cares? Who cares what I think? It doesn't matter. But I think it's a lot of fluff there, and that it's just gone a direction that doesn't appeal to me. Now, some people might think that that makes me a bad Latter-day Saint because I don't support Deseret Book. Well, so be it. I don't really care. I know where I stand with Christ. I know where I stand with the prophet and the brethren, and I know where I stand with the restored gospel of Jesus Christ. And I'm in good standing. I'm not perfect, far from it, but I'm worthy. I'm worthy, okay? So the attacks because I didn't follow the prophet and Sherry Dew says the prophet knows everything, you know, I'm just to the point where, okay, so here's where I'm going to throw it back. My bishop says I'm okay. They all know how I feel about the jab and all that. My stake president, same. Stake presidents answer to the Quorum of the 12. They don't answer to general authorities, the 70s or Area 70s. They don't answer to them. Area 70s and 70s get their marching orders from the 12, and in particular, the president of the 12, which right now is President Ballard. So stake presidents, the keys go directly to the Quorum of the 12, and then you have the first presidency, and then you have the prophet, if you will, but we'll just say the first presidency, and then Jesus Christ. So all these entities have said, Brother Palmer, we find you in good standing to enjoy the blessings of the temple. To me, that's the standard. Now, there'll be some who say, well, you can go to the temple, but you're still one of the 5 foolish virgins. All right, if you want to pass that judgment on me, so be it. I'm not worried about you judging me. I have one judge. I have one judge. We all have just one judge, and it's Jesus. So I follow the prophet. I sustain the prophet. I do all that, but you might not think I do. You know, that's it. But I'm saying that you're not sustaining the prophet by saying that he sustains me, and you say that I shouldn't be sustained as a member in good standing, or anybody else who didn't get the jab that's a member of the church. Because what you're saying is that the bishop, the stake president, the Quorum of the 12, and the first presidency are wrong to allow you to go to the temple, to allow you to be a member in good standing. Now, you could take other things that the brethren have talked about, inappropriate relationships, same-sex relationships. It's pretty tricky. Even the T of the alphabet soup, you can get baptized, but you can't go any further. I didn't make that rule. But me not getting the jab, I can participate in all of it. To me, that means something. So, you know, the celebrity status of certain people that it happens in the church, you know, whether they're over Deseret Book or whether they're married to the prophet, and this idea that they have, you know, secret information and understanding that, and we have to decipher the code of what they're saying, and did you hear this and hear that? I don't know. I'm not into that. I'm not into that. I'm into following the prophet. I'm into listening to the Holy Ghost whisper to me. I had the coolest dream the other night. I had the coolest dream. I very seldom share stuff like this. And I'll be honest, I don't have awesome dreams all the time. This one was, it was one of those vivid, I'll share it with you real quick. This is really good. I got up and wrote it down. Um, the clock in the head is still kind of messed up with the trip and everything. So I got up and I wrote it down. So obviously we'd been on a bus on this trip, and I think that had a lot to do with it. So here was the dream, and it was so vivid. This was on November 8th, and it was about 2 p.m. when I got up. Excuse me, 2 a.m. Sorry, 2 a.m. I had a dream of being on a bus. The bus went off the road. It got high-centered. I drew a little picture. I'm not going to show you that because it was really bad. It was in this position. Everyone was just wondering what to do. We're stuck. We're on the bus. No injuries. Everyone was a little frazzled. Now, this is where, you know how dreams get convoluted? On the bus was Mary, the mother of Jesus. She was on the bus. And she was in the traditional, what you would think of as the time period that she lived, Jewish clothing, right? That, like the pictures, just the normal, the hair covering and whatever they would wear. Mary, the mother of Jesus, calmly got off the bus with someone else. And the comment I made is just looking at her calmed me. It calmed me. So I watched her. I watched her get off the bus with this person. She walked on the dirt, side hill, and the grass with her companion until they came to a flat spot. Then it was revealed to me who her partner was. It was Mary Magdalene. Mother Mary then, and I can't read my writing. Mother Mary began adorning Mary Magdalene in putting the trimmings on a wedding dress. They were both facing each other and smiling. They were very focused on the moment and on each other, could care less about what happened on the bus. The bus crash was not their concern. The last thing I saw before I woke up was Mother Mary putting something in Mary Magdalene's hair. Just something focused on her hair. They were looking at each other with peaceful smiles. Before I woke up, I realized that Mary Magdalene was getting ready to marry Jesus. Now look, I don't want to get in that is just what the dream said to me. I got up and wrote it down around 2 a.m. It was so cool. Now, I've since thought about this dream, and this dream was that Mary was representing the church. So I'm not saying that she was physically getting, and her personally was getting ready to marry Jesus. That's what the dream told me. But as I thought about it, I thought this dream was for me, and I feel very comfortable sharing it with you fellow cows. I've maybe shared one or two other dreams. I'm not a dreamer. I'm not somebody, and don't listen to me as anybody other than I just had this dream. It was really cool. But I think Mary represents the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And she was being adorned by her mother-in-law, or someone was preparing her to be married to the groom, if you will. So you have the bride and the groom, and the groom is always Jesus, and the bride is the church. And so the chaos was the bus crash. It wasn't really a crash; it just went off the road. It derailed, if you will, even though there was no rail. But and I think when I think of all this stuff that goes on when you get back home and you get these emails and you see comments in the section that, you know, what about this and what about that? You know, I'm not diminishing those things. I do it too. But man, after being so focused on Scripture and the sights and the smells and feeling the dirt and touching rocks that perhaps Jesus touched, perhaps the apostles and prophets walked on, you know, and very likely that happened. And to think about it and to put distances into perspective, and feeling the spirit of Israel, this other stuff just seems so taxing and draining and not uplifting at all. So I'm going to use that dream. It was just for me. It wasn't for the world. It wasn't for anybody else. And I'm going to focus on the wedding. I'm going to focus on the wedding. And I'm going to do my best to not get caught up in, well, what about this? And what about this? And what about the secret message? And oh, it just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel right. The Spirit doesn't, you know, when spiritual things happen, sometimes it can feel exhausting, but generally it's rejuvenating, and it's like, it's powerful. And I would say at the end of each day, we were exhausted, but by the next day, what else are we going to discover? It was so exciting. And I find this other stuff, you know, like trying to analyze Sherry Dew's talk and something that Wendy Nelson said that at a fireside, and what this means and how this and that. I don't know, for some reason it just doesn't do it. Focusing on the doctrine and the gospel of Jesus Christ as revealed through the restoration is so much more powerful and sustaining. Now, I'm not trying to get out of trying to explain how I feel about this and that and defending, you know, but it just doesn't feel like it's worthwhile. So let's talk about Jesus, and let's talk about things. Now, a trip to Israel is typically not for the faint of heart. Now, several of you have asked, you know, what companies would you recommend? I'm no expert. I've been there 3 times, and all 3 trips were way different from each other. So the first trip was with Sue and my sister and her husband, and then we were with a large tour group. It was 2 full buses, and it was with Fun for Less, and Michael Wilcox was our main guide, but he was with us in Israel, but we did Jordan, you know, Petra and all that, and Egypt as well on that tour. And I'm telling you, life-changing. It was fantastic. It was awesome. And they took care of every detail, everything from flights to hotel rooms and food, and, you know, you kind of had to take care of your own lunch type thing, but not always. But typically breakfasts and dinners were taken care of. There were a few times when you could go eat on your own. but you're pretty much just pampered and taken care of. And if you haven't traveled much before, I highly recommend a tour like that. And there are many, many LDS tours. Now, here's the downside of a tour like that. Whether it's Daniel Rona, whether it's, oh gosh, I shouldn't even start mentioning them because there's so many and they're probably all really, really good. They will not do much in Judea or Samaria. They just will avoid those sites. Now you have to do a little study and figure out what Judea and Samaria is. I don't like calling it the West Bank because it just validates certain things and it kind of bugs me. But for simplicity, it's basically West Bank. West Bank. I kind of said that weird. West Bank areas of Israel. So Judea is more of the deserty southern part of Israel, not totally, but somewhat. Samaria would be north of Jerusalem in the mountainous regions. It would be considered Samaria, but that's just kind of general. Now, there are a couple of exceptions. Typically, the tours will take you to Bethlehem, which is in West Bank, and you'll have to get a non-Jewish tour guide. I apologize. But if you go with a tour group, they'll take care of all that. So typically there'll be a good attempt to get into Bethlehem. But other than that, you're not going to go to Jericho. You're not going to go to I think it's Bet Shean. You're not going to go, where Jacob where Jacob had his dream, the ladder. You're not going to go to that place. You're not going to go to Nazareth even. You're not going to go to Nazareth. You'll look at it from a distance, but you're not going to go there. For a first-time visit, I don't think that's that critical. You're going to get to Galilee. You're going to see all the sites in Jerusalem. And really, that's about all you can handle here and everything. So if it's a first time, and you're not really familiar with traveling and stuff, I would recommend a regular tour. And it's going to cost you, depending if you're just doing Israel for say 7 to 10 days, I would say it's probably going to cost you with airfare and lodging, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, depending on how deluxe you do it. And if you had some other add-ons, if you want to do while you're over there, sometimes you think, well, I might as well, see. Now, for our trip, well, I'll say one time I went over with my son Jesse, just he and I, and we did Airbnbs, and we just did everything on our own. One day we had a taxi, a cab guy, but they're different. They're almost tour guides too. He took us to he wouldn't. So Bethany, you don't go. You won't go there. That's West Bank, but he wouldn't take us to Jericho, but he did take us to Masada, which you'll go on a tour because it's outside of that region of West Bank. It's kind of strange. You'll have to look on a map and see where the West Bank is. And that's pretty much like I said, than Bethlehem was where the regular tours, what we'll just say church tours. I know they're not sponsored by the church, but you're going to get a guide that's a Latter-day Saint in good standing, right? And he's going to give you the Latter-day Saint perspective. And you'll get to Masada. But Qumran, you probably won't go to Qumran. Probably won't go there. Where Jesus was baptized, Jordan River Jordan, the crossing there, you probably won't go there. You probably won't do it. I'm just telling you, if that's a meaningful thing, you won't go to Jericho. You just won't go there. And there's other places. So I hope that's helpful. On this last trip, it was kind of a combo thing. We went to a lot of places. And like I say, Shechem, we would have gone there. It was on the list, but the government said, no, we're not allowing anybody in. And Hebron as well. I've been to Shechem before with my son. So I was hoping Sue could get there, but that's okay. And Hebron, it's just another trip to go. But we got to so many other places that I'm just trying to see if I can, Bet Shean or Shean. This place was incredible. This is where Saul and his son were killed. And the things that took place there, Joshua is recorded there. It's just an amazing place, and the Roman ruins are incredible. But this is all Samaria, and you're probably not going to go there on a regular tour. But I don't think you'd be disappointed if you didn't make it there the first time you go, or even if it's your only time you go. In Jericho, there's so many things. You have Rahab. You have Joshua coming in. It's the first city that the Israelites conquer as they enter the promised land. And Rahab, who Christ comes through her lineage. It's so cool to see those sites. And so there were 2 walls to the city of Jericho. We saw the ruins of those 2 walls. Rahab lived in between those 2 walls. And we know that when the walls came a-tumbling down, that Rahab and her household were protected. So there's a section of that city wall that was really protected, that they've uncovered. So the possibility is that's the section that Rahab came from, was the wall that didn't come tumbling down. It's, you see, you unless you see it, smell it, feel it, and look at it and go, gosh, that's I could be standing over the ruins of Rahab and her household's home. And then she's adopted into the Israelites. She becomes part of them. She's Boaz's great-grandma. Boaz, who marries Ruth, who's a Moabite. And through that lineage comes Christ. I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. So, you have all these things. How about where Gibeon, the Gibeon Springs, where it came down to 300 soldiers. You're not going to go there on a regular tour, more than likely. Now, some might say, oh yeah, we did this tour and we were able to go there. But my experience is they'll typically stay out of those places. So if you're thinking of going, I wouldn't think too long. I would just get it done. Typically, the tours are in the spring and in the fall. And typically, they won't go during the spring feasts and they won't go during the fall feasts. and it's hard to travel. It's hard to travel in Israel and not have some disruption when those feasts are going on, even if it's peaceful, because cities shut down, transportation shuts down, all kinds of things. But then there's also an escalation of terrorism during those feasts from those idiots that do that. So on this last tour that we went on, we had we arranged our own airfare and our own lodging, and I think our tour for him to provide, you know, the buses, the headsets, so you can hear him as he's talking, all the passes into these different places and do things. It was I don't know, like $2,500 each or maybe less. I can't remember. And so you end up, you know, airfare and everything, you end up about the same price, maybe a little bit less, but you get a lot. But we had to be in shape. We had to be in shape. And if you can't walk, I would say 6 miles a day, that trip wouldn't be for you. That trip wouldn't be for you. But if you like to hike and walk and you're into just studying and learning on, I would highly recommend it. And Todd Fink, who we went with, holylandsite.com, he'll do one in the spring, and he's signing up for the ones in the spring. So I'm just looking at some of the brochures here that we picked up, and I'm just, this video isn't going to be an in-depth one again, and I apologize, but okay, so this is Bet Shean. This is Bet Shean, and this is where Saul was wiped out with his son, and it's an amazing place, and very, very well worth it. You know, Masada, you'll get to Masada. This one is, oh, I'm sorry, here. This one here is where Samuel is supposedly buried. You probably won't go there. It's his tomb. This place was fascinating, and the view of, and it has a synagogue in it. It's just fascinating. Herod's palace, and where his tomb was, you probably won't go there. It's in West Bank, and it's incredible. There's the brochure and the site, and you get to see. But the cool thing about this is where you oversee the fields of Bethlehem, the shepherds' fields. The shepherds' fields. They know where they are. There's still fields there today. These shepherds' fields, to view them from Herod's, you know, we know Herod was wicked, but he's part of the history. And it's so interesting that here Herod was this mighty king and had all this, and everything he has is in ruin. Everything that represents him is in ruin. But everything that represents Jesus Christ is alive, So to view the fields of Bethlehem, the shepherd's fields, was so powerful, okay? So there's that. This one here is, this is where the Gibeon Springs are. It's probably one of the most beautiful spots. This is in the heart of Samaria, and the story of Gibeon and his soldiers is so powerful, and to see where it took place, to look where the enemy would have been and numbered like grasshoppers, just thousands and thousands of the enemy chanting and waiting to kill you. And he relied on the Lord, and the Lord delivered him. The Lord delivered him. It's just such an amazing story. Okay, so this was probably one of my favorite places, ancient Shiloh. Ancient Shiloh. So the tabernacle was here for 369 years. Shiloh is a place you probably wouldn't go on a regular Latter-day Saint tour. It's in Samaria. It's absolutely beautiful. And the stories there are amazing in Scripture. Shiloh was probably mentioned, I think it's mentioned only second to the city of Jerusalem in the amount of times it's mentioned in the Old Testament and the significant events. But this is where you have Eli, who's over the tabernacle and the Ark of the Covenant, and Samuel by his mother is brought to be raised there. And Eli is kind of a dirtbag. And you read the story and you go, yeah. And you see the site. You see where the tabernacle was. You see where the Holy of Holies would have been for 369 years. Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. You'll go to a lot of these places. City of David is incredible. You'll spend some time there, and anywhere in Galilee, you're welcome to go, and that's awesome. So hopefully that's helpful for just a little bit of a rundown on if you're thinking of planning a trip. This is just from my experience. If it's a first time, I think you'd be best, and you're not in the greatest of shape, probably you're still going to have a fair amount of walking. Oh, here's another one. Here's another one. I didn't even... the Mount of Olives. It's in the West Bank. The top of the Mount of Olives is in the West Bank. Many tours don't take you to the top of the Mount of Olives and then walk the path down to the Garden of Gethsemane that Christ would have walked. We did that on this trip. It was incredible. It was incredible, the spirit that was felt. But the top of the Mount of Olives is the Chapel of Ascension. It's the possible site where Christ left his apostles and they watched him ascend. You can read it. You can read it. And a lot of tours, the one that we went on, didn't take us there. We did the Garden of Gethsemane. We did the Orson Hyde Memorial Park. It's beautiful, spirit-felt, it's awesome. But just to keep walking up, well, that's West Bank. And they try to avoid that. So I hope that's helpful. I promise I'm going to get into insights from the scriptures from these sites and stories. But things come up and it's hard to get caught up on everything. So again, I'm going to repeat the Chosen premiere of the first 2 episodes of season 3. Jordan Commons, this is for subscribers of Cardio Miracle through the cows. It's going to be provided for free. And if you are subscribed and you're within the geographic area of southern Idaho, all of Utah, Wyoming, kind of that area, you'll get an email invitation, and then we ask you to please RSVP so we know how many other seats we might have to open it up to others that can come. And it'll be at Jordan Commons, November 19th at 6 p.m. Okay? So this is exciting, and you get to meet John and his wife, John Hewlett of Cardio Miracle, the founder and CEO of Cardio Miracle. Brad Pello, who is, I think I pronounced his name right, and I believe he's the executive producer of The Chosen, and his wife will be there and will speak to us about The Chosen. And if you're worried, it's available at Deseret Book, The Chosen. So it's been ratified by Sherry Dew. So we're safe. It's Sherry Dew endorsed. Okay. Sorry. Jordan Commons, 9400 South State Street. Okay. I've gone way too long. I've mumbled. I'm pumped, but I'm about telling you everything about Israel. But I'm also I feel like I've been kind of hit in the gut over all this, I just call it kind of silly stuff that you come home to that just shouldn't be part of any of this. As members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we should be focused on those things and not look for hidden condemnation from talks by, anyway. Okay, that's it. I love you all. I do. And I'm going to get warm, and we're going to, and I apologize for the barking dogs all through this, but that's just the way it is. Love you all. Talk to you soon. Bye.